Hey everybody, this is my rhetorical concepts presentation, and the CWC that I chose is teamwork and leadership skills. First off, the main idea. And the main idea that I found from each of these four sources that I studied shows support to the argument that direction and authority are not qualities that make a good leader, but rather empowerment, supportive partnership, and a safe environment are what creates the best case scenario. And in Simon Sinek's TED Talk, Why Good Leaders Make You Feel Safe, he tells about dangers of the outside world that surround us, and that when we introduce trust into these work relationships, it's natural for success to follow. And some of the main points that I took from his TED Talk involving main idea are that first off, he has personal experience um, where he was involved in the military, and he gives us examples that teach the importance of being a good leader and how good leaders make their team a priority, even when it's not for their own personal gain. And then he talked about the circle of safety. In this, he explains that when people are safe at work, it allows space for them to focus on collaborating with one another as opposed to being stuck in fight or flight instincts, which these instincts make stress over time take over the creative thinking process, which inhibits them from their full capabilities of what they could contribute to the team. And next we have leadership in biology. He connects the direct effect that bad leadership has on the human body, involving raised oxytocin and cortisol levels that can influence work efficiency and lacking an overall feeling of safety. And the next few main idea points were listed in What Makes a Great Leader by Linda Hill. And these people argue that there are three categories which the best leaders implement, which are first, the architect, in which the purpose is to create a culture in the work environment where growth is imminent through the support and encouragement from both leaders and team members. And a quote that I liked from this was, if your goal is innovation, then your role must instead be to create an environment, a setting, a context, an organization where people are willing and able to do the hard work of innovation themselves. And next, we have the Bridger, and the purpose of the Bridger is to facilitate collaboration through networking and to make sure that everyone involved know that they play an important role in the operation. And one of the most important roles as a leader is to make sure that the minority voice gets heard. I really like that quote. And next, we have the Catalyst. The purpose of the Catalyst is to lead through being an example to everyone of someone who is willing to grow through failure and stay committed to continuing in collaboration with one another. And the quote I found for this was, leadership is about using yourself as an instrument to get things done. It can be learned, but only if you are willing and able to engage in serious self-development. And next we have purpose. So some parts from these four sources that I liked were, first off, managing an organization through leadership based on the values. On the values. And in this one, it says that it's more effective to approach leadership as a collaborative effort because in return it creates a more functional way of managing organizations. And a quote that I liked from this was, the leader should be a person who not only manages but also inspires, motivates, and builds trust among team members. And I feel that this quote explains that leadership is not just a role, but is tied to relationships and emotion between people. Another quote I liked is, the effectiveness of leadership depends on the consistency between declared values and actual behavior. This quote shows the importance of being an authentic leader and that leaders must practice what they preach. And last quote is, values are the foundation of organizational culture and influence the behavior of employees. And this quote means to me that the values which a leader instills in a company affect everything involved in the process. And then next, I have a couple personal experiences that have helped me learn the purpose and importance in good leadership and teamwork. First off, I grew up playing a couple different instruments. I played in an orchestra, and the way that this works is you work up your way in the different levels of the orchestra. Um, through how good you are, and you take chair tests and things like that. And eventually I was able to make my way up to what they call first chair, which means you're the leader of your section. And by having this leadership role, I was able to learn the importance of how it is more effective to be kind to your team than to tear them down. I felt like this created a way better environment, and we were all able to grow so much better through this. And then next, my first job was Handel's Ice Cream, which I worked here in high school. I also worked here last summer, and it's allowed me to see the importance of being a team player and to collaborate with other people to benefit one another. And when everyone goes it alone, we all work less efficiently, but when we help one another clean up after ourselves, it benefits everyone. And I think that's what a good team player is. And third, we have audience. And so, the target audience in these texts varies, but overall, I will explain how they're all different. And in first, what makes a great leader? The article appeals to the audience. Oh, I missed a part, sorry. Anyone who is a business owner, professional, or any other type of organizational leaders. And yes, the article appeals to the audience because it includes relatable, real-life corporate examples and intellectual language to specifically appeal to people who are in charge of creating a good work environment. And the next source I used was Why Good Leaders Make You Feel Safe. And this audience is people who are managers, students, educators, or anyone who wants to know more about leadership in general. And this specifically appeals to the audience because he uses examples in his stories that are relatable to people in different ages and industries. So he appeals to a bunch of different people in a big diversity. And in managing an organization through leadership based on the values, the target audience is leadership scholars, academics, and higher up managers. And this article appeals to these groups because it has an intellectual and formal tone with its citations and scholarly outlook. It specifically applies to people who want to apply these theories about leadership to real life instances in organizations. So they want to implement it in their own life and with the people around them. And next we have rhetorical appeals, which means the ethos, pathos, and logos. And the first source I used was What Makes a Great Leader, and I'm going to break down each of these into what I found in each of them with the ethos, pathos, and logos. So in this one, they made lots of references to respectable leaders, and the authors create credibility through their ties to Harvard. And the pathos appeals to readers' immediacy and inspiration by showing that there is a social difference made when thoughtful leadership is prominent. And the logos used in this one is the ABC method that we talked about earlier, so the architect, bridger, and catalyst. And it creates a clear, organized system which adds credibility and strength to their argument through examples and rationality. And the next one we have is Great Leadership is a network, not a hierarchy. And the ethos in this is that she creates credibility and authority through her experience at Boston Consulting Group and expertise in digital modification leadership. And the pathos is she appeals to the emotions of the audience by bringing light to the delight in collaboration and diminishing the fear of common leadership. And the logos is her argument is strong because of the logic that problems are solved more efficiently than distributed leadership is implemented. And then the last one we have managing an organization through leadership based on values. The ethos of this is the authority comes from their roles as military leaders and their experience with that, and through their scholarly research. You can tell that they are knowledgeable on the subject. And the pathos is they appeal to the reader's inclination for a meaningful workspace and efficient leadership. The logos is this article highlights a logical analysis and research-backed argument of why a respect-based leadership approach is best. And then next we have text, which represents the schemes and tropes, rhetorical devices, language, and tone of these different texts. And in the TED Talk, Great Leadership is a network, not a hierarchy, I felt like this was a good example of using these different texts. And first, she used the main metaphor, which involves a comparison between the hierarchy and network in regard to leadership. She shifts our view from seeing leadership as a from the traditional and directional role to a collaborative effort where each person's contribution matters and they all play a role. I feel that this is well distributed through the quote, leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room, it's about enabling the room to be smart. So I think that this shows that leaders should give people the tools to be able to use the opportunities and become the best version of themselves because they are feeling safe in the space that they're able to. And then the parallelism is she uses repetition to emphasize rhythm and create a stronger argument. This creates an empowering and convincing statement, like the quote below. More resources, more capabilities, and we need to do it effectively and sustainably. The language that she uses has an inclusive tone through her terms that allow the reader to feel a sense of purpose in relation to others in the same boat. She uses words like us and we to create a sense of togetherness and helps the reader to be able to relate and feel like this applies to them more. And the tone is that she acknowledges the reader's emotions by addressing the fears and worries of this change in our approach to leadership by accepting the worst and motivating us to take the worthwhile risk. And I feel like this is shown in this next quote that says, that's scary. And for those of you thinking it won't work, maybe in some cases it won't. But when it does, we get better outcomes and happier people. And this is my analysis. Thank you so much.